I taught my bird to whistle like a referee. I can make a free throw when I'm down on one knee. I've been a fan of basketball since I was 5. Now I am a fan of HoopSpeak Live. Hilarious analysis of mystifying trope. An angel with a cudgel breaking bubbles of soap. Like honeybees buzzing around a hive. Everybody buzzing about HoopSpeak Live.
Hey, welcome to HoopSpeak Live Friday edition. We've been going all week. It's been really fun, and we're going to have a great show today. We've got Kevin Arnovitz from ESPN.com and True Hoop, who's been out in China for almost 6 weeks. Now he's back. He's been doing some great writing. We're going to talk about all that. As always, this show is brought to you by Rajon Rondo's Tattoo Parlor, where you'll find expert advice on tattoos of your own initials that can cover your own back. And with that, let's get to the guest host, or the co-host. I will get that right one time this week. Ethan Sherwood-Strauss and Zach Harper.
Must you, in a Freudian slip way, denigrate us every episode, Beckley?
I'm digging this sweater flannel combo. Look at you. You are fraternitied out.
Oh,
He's getting the jump on the bad sweater party coming up around Christmas. He's practicing.
Frat row bro in front of us.
wow. I didn't know that this was what I was walking into. It's a sweater and a collared shirt that's warm. I'm going to the Yankee game tonight where I will hopefully suck from the of
just
their terrible.
throw in your baseball tickets in front of us.
I don't
You
have
and your highfalutin society.
Charlie Widow's got them for free because he used to do some MLB thing, and then he couldn't go, so he gave them to me. So I'm going with a Yankees fan that's kind of neurotic, if you can believe there's one of those. And I'm hopefully going to mock him and terrorize him for the entire game. So I'm very excited about that.
Code for it right there?
I don't know.
It felt like Yankees fan was code for something. Neurotic Yankees fan. It just felt like you were trying to convey something there.
Had a little bit of a dog whistle to you, Ethan? Was it a dog whistle?
A little bit of a dog whistle. A little bit of a dog whistle there.
No, he's not Jewish, if that's what you're getting at.
Oh.
Well, that's a shocker.
Yeah, no, Long Island, Yankees fan, but he's Catholic.
Wow.
Anyway, let's talk about a little bit of basketball. Hollinger's profile on the Sixers came out today, 46 and 36. That, to me, was a little bit too high, as we talked about on the show a couple times. But one of the reasons is I think it's going to be a lot more of Evan Turner this year, even if they're just trying to plug the ball into Bynum. He doesn't really fit there. He was their number 2 pick. What do we think about this guy?
You know, it's a lot of what Andre Iguodala did is going to be replaced by Evan Turner in theory, and that's a problem. And I was thinking about the Sixers and about the 2010 NBA draft. It's kind of amazing that he went at number 2, and there are 3 guys drafted after him who you clearly, by a vast margin, prefer to be in that spot. And also, what's interesting to me about the 2010 draft is that if you look at the 4 guys who are the top of that draft, it's so hard to place them in any order. It's nearly impossible, and it will just tie you up in the knots. And I'm talking about DeMarcus Cousins, Greg Monroe, John Wall, and Derek Favors. How do you even sort them? I'm at a loss for how to do it with any confidence.
I think it's a little unfair when you look back. You're like, how did Evan Turner go number 2? There were serious questions about Derek Favors because he had never played with like a competent guard. So you don't know if he's actually good or if he is just like another Stromile Swift who is an athletic freak that doesn't get it. And then with DeMarcus Cousins, it was always attitude. No one doubted his skills. It was, is this guy worth getting the first time around, or would you rather be the second or third team that grabs him in his career when he's hopefully more mature? So, I mean, Evan Turner had a very good college career. He's a good talent, but he's not a guy you can just throw out there and say, go do stuff for us. I think he needs a very specific role, which maybe Philly can find. I think Hollinger's preview, it seems pretty like best case scenario to me.
Yeah, I think. Well, okay, so I thought Turner could shoot when he came out of college, which shows how much college basketball I watch. But I think more interesting is the second half of what Ethan said, which is if you take those 4 guys, how would you redraft them today? Would you take Cousins first, knowing everything we know about him? Would you look at Favors and say, okay, he's just scratching the surface. He's going to be a Defensive Player of the Year candidate coming up. Do you stick with Wall, or are we convinced that Wall's ceiling is like a little bit or significantly lower than a lot of people thought it was?
I think my order right now would have to be Monroe first, just because he's produced, and I like having something tangible to peg on that. So I would go Monroe number 1, and then it gets really difficult for me. I think I still want to stick with John Wall just because I think it's so situationally based that he's been erratic in Washington, and in a good situation he could be better. And then I go Cousins and Favors, but man, again, I keep wanting to argue for Favors because there's something I really enjoy about his game, and defensively he could be the most impactful of all of them.
I think it's clear cut that Cousins is the top guy out of those 4. It seems insane to me. He's a better rebounder than Greg Monroe. He's a better defender. Yeah, he shoots a low percentage because he misses a lot of tips around the basket. He misses a lot of little easy shots, but that's something that's correctable because he's a guy that probably grows into his body and learns how to be a power player within the next couple of years. I mean, he's already almost impossible to guard inside. He can get almost any shot he wants. That guy's clearly better than Monroe moving forward to me.
Right, his talent is obviously exceptional. He's been shooting threes in preseason games. It's just those sorts of things.
Hey, that's a center thing. That's what centers do.
That's what 7-footers with nimble feet should do, is shoot threes. No, I think my order would probably Cousins, toss up Wall, Favors, leaning. I would go Cousins, Walls, Favor, Wall, Favors, Monroe, just because I think Monroe is safe. Monroe is obviously an excellent player, but if you're doing that top level and all 3 of these guys look like they're at least going to be good, like you're not going to have a bust out of them, you might as well go with the ones that seem to have the highest potential.
I want to respond to how Zach brainwashed some people with the straw man, where I'm reading here that I've asked this ridiculous question of how did Evan Turner go number 2. No, I get how Turner went at that slot. I never said at any point that was a crazy bad decision at the time. It's just an evidently poor decision right now. That's the point. And I see that Harper put me in that spot by tweaking it. I want to say
I think it's unfair. I think it's unfair for someone like Ethan, who continually questions whether LeBron is the best player in the league or not, to come out with these accusations.
Yes, that is what I do. With Cousins, I guess I'm worried about the low percentage because it's not a low percentage that comes from his outside shot. His outside shot is fine. He is good at that pick and pop jumper. I don't know if guys improve that 3 to 9 foot range and close to the basket range. He shot 56% at the rim, which for a big man is really bad and also strange. So I worry about that. I don't know if that gets better, and it's also just odd.
I think we all need to remember that he lost 20 pounds this summer and getting
the best shape of his life.
A little more bouncy around the rim. Maybe that'll help. Okay, let's get to our guest. You know him from ESPN True Hoop. He is the one and only Kevin Arnovitz.
He's Kevin Arnovitz.
Gentlemen.
How you doing, man? Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So
loving the new format.
Yeah. You were just in China. Did you see the NBA there? Was there a footprint of the NBA? We hear a lot about that all the time.
Man, I mean, look, you can only rely on anecdotes, but I swear, if you're a professional Chinese guy between the ages of 20 and 40 and you lay eyes on an American, I mean, the number of times I was asked, like, where are you from? I said, Los Angeles, Lakers. And they just want to talk hoop, man. They want to talk. And Kobe, and the Kobe thing is interesting. The 5 most popular players in China are Kobe, 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 and Kobe, with like this residual love of T-Mac at various, like, they do a lot of caricatures on touristy streets, like, of guys kind of, and for whatever reason, like, T-Mac makes it into these sort of, into these menageries of players that they will replicate, like Yao's still there, occasionally LeBron, but Kobe, and I was talking about with Henry, actually, Henry Abbott, I don't know if it's like that, if there's something in the character sort of China, the collective character of the nation that is drawn to Kobe's on-court persona. I don't know if it's just like Nike doing a really good job over the years, but I mean, guys under 40 want to talk hoop with you. Except there was one guy in a barber shop. I had to get my head shaved while I was there, and like I was like, well, he's like, the Lakers are my team in Iowa, and I said, why? Like the Hawkeyes? Like, you're like, oh, you're like, yes, I like Slipknot, and they're from Iowa. So I root for their basketball team. And you have these bizarre exchanges like that. I'm thinking, like, is he a Steve Alford guy? Like, what? Reggie Evans, maybe? Like what draws a Chinese guy in Hong Kong to, like, say, hey, my favorite team, basketball teams are the Lakers for pros and Iowa for college. And it's because Slipknot is from Des Moines. And so he has been drawn to the Iowa Hawkeyes. But there are basketball courts everywhere, and they're sort of beautiful. Like, you'll be riding your bike in rural Yunnan province, like a few hundred miles from the Tibetan border. You'll see this little low-rise school. And then there's, like, beautiful basketball court. Inside the Forbidden City in China, like the holiest kind of, this is the jewel box in Beijing that houses all of the kind of imperial China, and there's like a basketball court inside the gates that they've put in there for who knows what reason. I have no idea. But basketball is everywhere in China.
Jewel box is one of my favorite Kevinisms, and it's one that I often steal when talking about the new Warriors arena. I'm wondering, they're building this $1.5 billion complex, and this is difficult for anybody to know, but it seems that a lot of their China projects have been something of a boondoggle, the project to build 12 arenas, for instance. Are you more optimistic about their China adventure after visiting? Do you think that it will eventually become the cash cow that many in the NBA envision?
I'll say this, and again, this is anecdotal. I haven't studied consumer trends or consumer confidence indexes or projections of what middle-income people in that country will have to spend on things like basketball. But one of the things that if you spend there, you spend 4 weeks there all over the country, I mean, they're buying. I mean, the middle class of China, they're out and about, and they're spending money. And you can see the temptation of any enterprise that has global ambitions to say, like, oh man, we got to get in on this. Kind of like you were trading stocks in the mid-'90s. It was like, yeah, I got to get on this .com stock thing because I got friends who are tripling their money in 2 months. And you can see the potential. It is, I mean, again, culturally, basketball just came up. I mean, I visited other countries. You can go 3 weeks in Japan without anyone even mentioning the NBA. You can't walk down the street in Shanghai without seeing a kid, in some sort of Kobe T-shirt. I mean, I saw a couple Rondos, Chris Paul. I mean, you can't walk through the subway, at Jinan Temple Station without seeing that stuff.
That's awesome. Okay. This is a really interesting political thing that it was like just a footnote in an article today in New York Times, or maybe yesterday actually, about what people watch via their political system. And there's the line: Republicans tended to watch NCAA basketball while Democrats prefer the National Basketball Association. As someone who has worked on a few campaigns, what do you make of that?
I make of that in the sense that the power teams in college basketball exist in largely red states. Not red cities, because I think Lawrence, Kansas is probably this oasis of blue in red Kansas. But I mean, let's tick them off. The Southeast ACC, regarded as one of the power conferences in the league. Kansas, the Big 12. You look at where those power teams exist, and it makes sense that their fan base are basically people who live in red areas. Look at the NBA. I mean, Lakers, Celtics, Heat, Dade County, Los Angeles County, the state of Massachusetts, generally the coasts, up and down Chicago.
Right.
These are fan bases concentrated in urban democratic areas. And I just think that's my pop assessment, and that's sort of my Occam's razor for this question.
I feel like that's a sidestep, though, Kevin, if you don't mind me saying. Don't you think that those are popular where they're popular for a reason? That those are powerhouses for a reason. You think that
people live there? Like,
no, but I'm saying that about the college. I'm saying about the college basketball powerhouses or powerhouses in the South because they are popular, and they must be popular for a reason beyond them arbitrarily becoming popular there. You don't think there's anything to the Halberstam theory on this, that perhaps the fact that young black men are more under control or perceived as being controlled, that it has a different kind of resonance?
Absolutely. I mean, look, I'm not going to discount that at all. I think you have more teams in NCAA basketball that are populated by the kind that look like, frankly, viewers' sons. And in that respect, yeah, you're right. It's certainly a factor. But I would still say, New York City, one of every 12 Americans lives in the New York metropolitan area. Who's the college team there? Los Angeles, UCLA. I mean, they've been a good team, but I mean, the Lakers are an outsized brand in a region of the country, and it goes beyond LA. I mean, San Diego, Las Vegas. I mean, anything. I mean, you grew up in the area. Anything south, basically, of San Luis Obispo is Laker country, all the way out to Kingman, Arizona. So, I think demographic, but I accept that. I do think that college does have a certain Hoosiersy romance to it, and where's the Butlers and Dukes of, well, we know where they are, they're in Minneapolis, but where are the Butlers and Dukes of the NCAA, well.
Yeah, no, I think it's an interesting, I mean, that article had a lot of, apparently Democrats also really like cartoons more than Republicans. And I would wonder how that aligns with marijuana statistics. Oh, are we losing Kevin here?
He just left.
You're not losing me. Are you talking about the Ren?
Yeah.
the Ren and Stimpy book?
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
This is the Ren and Stimpy book. Am I dating myself? I frequently date myself. I am the only person I ever date. But that's the Ren and Stimpy Adult Swim vote.
Exactly. Yeah, I always so I have, not that this has anything to do with what we were just talking about, but I have my mom's Xfinity account for on demand on the computer, and I watch a lot of Adult Swim on there, and I always have to delete them because I don't want to see the kind of ridiculous crap that I watch. It's like 12-minute, surreal cartoons. Anyway, let's chat about your big post yesterday, which was on National Coming Out Day, and it was about coming out in the NBA and what would need to happen for that to be possible. The thing that I found really fascinating about the article, thanks, Graydon. I'm so happy he gets to watch today. By the way, he's supposed to be at work at Sesame Street right now. Anyway, he was the rhetorical strategy you used sort of inhabited the strategy that you advocated, which was, making it a conversation that was inclusive and could bring in people who, you made it possible to be smart and also think that, that it could be a bad thing if someone came out in the NBA, which I thought was a really interesting tactic.
It's a really difficult issue, and if I'm a gay ball player, there's so many hurdles. There's the sort of immediate day-to-day office stuff you'll have to deal with, which is, are you going to be the subject of ridicule? I think this other issue is very interesting too. I mean, and this is kind of a flip side. When Joakim Noah made that comment, he said faggot on the court in the conference final, at the time a very heated Heat Bulls conference final. The thing he felt worse about was not, and I took a little bit of umbrage, but not too much, it wasn't that he was sorry he offended gay people and the people who love gay people. He was more sorry that Luol Deng was over there having to field comments about this issue and the distraction. And I think one thing, not only are you facing bullying, not only are you facing being ostracized on your team, potential abuse from road fans and home fans, which is probably even more tragic. You're basically you're subjecting teammates, and if you're not a star, you're subjecting guys who, are sort of the voices of that locker room to these kind of distractions. The kind of, distractions is something, teams hate. The coaching staff's not going to have any love for you, even if you're doing it in service of a positive story. Even the guys who might like you and be sympathetic, at a certain point, they get tired of guys like us standing in front of their lockers and saying, well, what is it like playing with a gay teammate? The second thing is, and John Amici has talked about this, is job security. I mean, it's very much a kind of a meat and potatoes issue. And that is one of the more depressing things about talking to GMs and agents and some players around the league was you heard this fair or not, comma. There are certain qualities that when you're looking at the free agency market, when your star players are being consulted on, do you want this guy or you want that guy, that, are basically demerits against a guy's resume. Maybe he's a criminal. Maybe he parties too hard. You don't want the young guys on the team to sort of be drawn to that culture. Maybe he dogs it. Maybe he's not a guy who'll play through injury. Maybe he's gotten popped for weed and guns in the car, and you just don't even want to deal with the cultural issues. And maybe he's rumored to be gay. Not even gay, rumored to be gay. And it was sort of you would hear GMs, kind of, a couple execs I talked to were like, hey, I don't feel good about it, but the answer is I often consult my star player. And that's kind of the job of the GM to say, hey, which guy would bring the most to what you want to accomplish, both in the locker room and on the floor? And if that star player harbors in homophobia, or, again, that other thing where I'm not homophobic, but it would be disruptive, that's put on the list of minuses when you kind of measure the pros and cons on the legal pad of what can this player do for us. So now I think I don't even doubt it. I think we're still at a point where a guy who came out would jeopardize his career. I'm not going to say blackballed the league over. I think the 2010-2011 Phoenix Suns could have been a team a guy like that could have prospered on because the leaders in the locker room, I think, had as a personal imperative to be inclusive, and the organization worked really hard. But I think it's sort of like, hey, okay, I'm going to come out and basically I'm off the board for 18 teams. I mean, before my agent even picks up the phone. And, that's the reality right now. The good news is I think, we are moving in the right direction. And younger guys are kind of cool. Like, Blake Griffin's recovering from surgery. He's on Twitter a lot when he recovers from surgery. He's yakking with Brandon McCarthy, my favorite athlete tweeter, starting pitcher for the injured now for the Oakland A's. And, at some point, somebody brings up the issue of gay marriage. And Blake had this sort of tweet which ridiculed opponents of gay marriage. And, Blake's a 22, 23-year-old guy. And I do think culturally younger guys are part of that generation where it is a little more, accepted. So I think we'll get there. But I do think both the job security and, frankly, just day-to-day, office politics really still govern the decision-making. And clearly 100% of closeted athletes have decided to stay closeted in the NBA. So there's proof.
I think that, maybe you kind of already answered this, but I think the main question is, you brought up the example, I can't remember his name, but the boxer who came out in career saying, this is me. And for him, he just has to deal with it. Maybe his trainer deals with some questions, but it's really, for lack of a better term and a play on words, it's his fight to put up with this kind of thing. Whereas in the NBA, yeah, you can have your teammates rally around you, but it is a distraction, at least for the first guy to do it. It's going to be a huge distraction. It's something that maybe takes away from the team, or at least can have that potential for effect. So I just wonder, we keep talking about, as our society, oh, we're ready, but do you actually believe we're ready? Because it seems like if it's going to be an issue, I don't know that our society necessarily is that ready.
One of my favorite West Wing episodes from season 1 was this, they were talking about gays in the military, and I forget the actor. He was the Good Times father and then ended up playing Fitz Wallace, the Joint Chief of Staff, African-American guy. And, at one point, Josh Lyman, played like Bradley Whitford, goes up to him and says, what do you think? They've been talking about it, and he hadn't really even weighed in. He just stopped into the meeting when they were talking about it, and he's like, yeah, that's what they said when they integrated, the Army, that it would be disruptive. Guess what? It was disruptive. And guess what? We got over it. I don't want to get into that. Can you compare civil rights and integration to, integration of gays? I don't want to have that conversation. But I think the spirit of his comments were true. Will it be disruptive? Damn right it's going to be disruptive. And you know what? You get over it. I think that's hey, whether we're dealing with Royce White, which I see a lot of commenters are alluding to, is it going to be disruptive? Yeah, it's going to be inconvenient and disruptive for a team. Do you get over it? You get over it.
Yeah, and this is digressive. I'm just going to set it aside where Bradley Whitford, the guy who plays Lyman, is just so clearly not Jewish and portraying a Jewish character that I just always find it amusing.
I'll say this. Ethan, there is a brand of sort of waspy Episcopalian Jew.
Yes.
I grew up in Atlanta. Well, no, there's a certain species there. And growing up in Atlanta, we descended from the Russian swarthy things, but this was a very driving Miss Daisy world, and the German descendant Jews who had come over decades before, with the Christmas trees in the house, and we don't wear yarmulkes at temple, and, we are part of the Atlanta social kind of old money scene. So there is a little, there's that subspecies of Episcopalian Jew.
But there's a break, you wouldn't buy Beckley. If Beckley was playing a Jewish guy on TV, it would be like, come on.
I'm not buying any dude named Beckley as a kid, but no, that's just me.
Returning to the matter at hand, do you think that NBA fans, connected to our conversation about their voting patterns, do you think that they would be more embracing of a gay athlete coming out? Because you mentioned that people might not want those kinds of chants, those Brokeback Mountain chants at a stadium. I'm of the opinion that the NBA fan base would be more receptive than any fan base of the four major sports, but I'd like to know what you think.
Yeah, I think so too. And you examine who's sitting in the lower bowl at Staples Center. Just think about that for a second. it basically approximates who's standing, who's sitting in the lower bowl at the Oscars or the Emmys. In terms of demographics, and I do think there would be the lone guy who yells faggot. And I think, frankly, a good number of fans would turn around and correct. I have actually a lot of faith in the fan base. In terms of those attending the games, I think those on chat boards and those in, sort of the peanut gallery, I'm maybe less faithful of. But I think we're at a point now where there probably would be homophobia in the lower bowl, but people probably wouldn't say it out of fear of retribution or just, confrontation. That we're now at the point where if you don't like a specific minority group, most people have the sense to, shut the F up. Out of sheer, just I don't want to get into it. Around your dinner table at Thanksgiving, your crazy uncle may say some crazy stuff. But I'm with you. I think the lower bowl of most NBA arenas, and even in a conservative place like Oklahoma City, home of the benediction before the game, I think those are generally good-hearted people, and I don't think that they would ever, having spent a lot of time there last season, I wouldn't see it. I just don't see it. This is about inside the locker room.
I wonder to what degree, if media is really what people would be concerned about and the attention and the distractions, how long that would remain a story that everyone had to be all over. You know what I mean? It's in some ways, when that boxer came out, it made a splash for a day, and then everyone was like, okay, move along. That's boxing. That's a single, a one-person sport. And it's obviously not as big of a sport nationally and doesn't have the media coverage as the NBA. But I wonder how long, are we getting to a point with the way that we turn things over in Twitter and make decisions on it and argue about it that in a few weeks it would be petering off, or do you think this would be something that would really be a season-long?
Real quick, I just want to say, how long has the same LeBron conversation been going on? I know it's not an equal subject, but if people want to beat a subject, they'll beat a subject.
I think it's a big story. This is sort of the last frontier. You've written beautifully about sort of, issues of masculinity and homosexuality in basketball. Your piece on, Beckley on sort of the body issue with Griffin last year. I think this is, I think there is a segment of the fan base that would just be incited. You have to go look no further than the comment sections of any of these posts. And hey, those are the people who hang out at ESPN.com all day.
Yeah.
I do. Would it die down? I don't know. I do think it becomes a crossover story. I think you have kinds of reporters who've never picked up a credential at an NBA media gate who would be with the team for a number of days. I think. Don't forget, you travel. Right. So the guy's first trip to Los Angeles and Oakland and New York and Philly. I mean, now there's the gay media waiting for them. There's the sort of the enterprising reporter from the Daily, who's now working on a piece. So I do think it would have a certain permanence, and but taken into account, you're right. I mean, we are churning through the cycle a lot quicker. Though to Zach's point, when there is a sticky story, man, does it stick?
But that's a question of I don't know. We can do that later. I think they're different kinds of questions.
Well, I just you're often asked, and you mentioned it in your piece, about whether or not you're attracted to the people you're covering, and you have to make that disavow that that's not what you're focused on. And what I'm wondering is, why does that even matter? Why is that something because let's just hypothetically say that you were, or that another gay journalist was. I see in locker rooms all the time, I see players flirting with female sideline reporters, and that dynamic is there. It just seems like it should be a so what category. And, say it was true, I just don't get why that's an issue that anybody should care about whatsoever.
You bring up a good point. I mean, as an aside, have you noticed the proliferation of really attractive females who sort of man the microphone for the official team's TV thing? And I was talking with an unnamed PR director about this particular trend at some point last season, just standing in the hallway waiting for a media availability. And I mean, the logic was very obvious that players, players hate doing those sort of interviews, and particularly when they're conducted by the team. It's sort of, the questions are a little bit, probably a little more annoying, and but a pretty woman, they'll stand there for 5 minutes and happily schmooze. Does it matter if I were attracted to my subjects? I mean, that's a really good question. I think the idea is that this is a work and professional environment, and you might be in the office, hey, it's any of us, and if there's attractive female or attractive person who you're sort of like, she's good looking, or he's good looking. I mean, I think there's an understanding that in the American workplace, you sort of, it's your responsibility to check those instincts. I don't necessarily mean repressive. I don't repress them. I don't even think it's to banish them. But I think in any workplace, it's just disrespectful to, and maybe I'm priggish about this, I just think it's disrespectful in any workplace to objectify the people you work with. And so I do think it matters.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. And as everyone has known, we ran about 10 minutes long with this interview, but well, and it's not like we've got another show coming on after us. It's the internet, folks. So thank you very much for coming on, Kevin. This was awesome. And, we'll have you on again soon in the year and maybe actually talk about basketball on the court.
Looking forward to talking hoop.
All right, man. Thanks a lot, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks.
All right, that was excellent. As I said, we did run over, so we're just going to jump right to Dagger Smash Noted. Wanted to also say, though, first that really enjoyed the chat that's been going on throughout this. I think this is it's cool to do this show for people who have thoughtful things to say and occasionally funny ones, except for Graydon. It's very cool. So thank you, and thank you for watching all week. Who's got the dagger today?
I can dagger if you'd like.
All right.
I have nothing. I have absolutely nothing. Happy birthday to my lady friend Amber. It's her birthday tomorrow.
Yeah, I have the feeling I'm the only person who prepared for this segment.
To my credit,
I had a few things I was juggling.
I've been on the phone all day, and I screwed up cupcakes that I'm making for her birthday, so I'm a little frazzled right now. I didn't have time to prep. I got on about 5 minutes before the show started.
All right. Well, you didn't have time to prep because you had to make cupcakes. It's a real hardship. My smash is on the whole Kobe Smush Parker beef. Really, 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 who cares? We've known about this for the last few years. It seems like it just popped up randomly because Parker went on. Everyone knows Kobe is kind of mean and cruel to some of his teammates. Have you seen the clip of him elbowing Sasha Vujacic in the chest for like no reason during a dead ball in practice and saying "Don't talk to me"? I mean, this is just like his thing. It shouldn't surprise anyone, and I'm tired of talking about it. It was the only thing on Twitter today, and it was driving me crazy. So that's my smash.
My note, it isn't really a note. It's more of a piggybacking on it. I think I first wanted to talk about Andre Drummond again and how great he is at, disrupting passing lanes. But I'm going to switch there. I feel like this is yet another Kobe contrivance that the media encourages him to do, because he's supposed to be that Jordan-esque kind of violent, angry guy, because that's his image. It's an image that's somewhat recent, and he plays into it. I think he has fun with it. I don't think he loves Parker, but I also don't think that he cares particularly, and he knows that being a jerk augments the perception of him as a guy who just wants it so badly. So I think that we are to blame for Kobe's jerkiness.
All right, I'll blame you.
Okay, I'll take it.
All right, thank you. It was an awesome show. When we come back next week, it's going to be Tuesdays and Thursdays for a half hour for the rest of the year. That is the plan right now, unless we all get fired from our work, and then we might have time to do it every day like we did this week. Thank you to everyone who watched. We'll be back on Tuesday. And Roger Bain, take us out.
I taught my bird to whistle like a referee. I can make a free throw when I'm down on one knee. I've been a fan of basketball since I was 5. Now I am a fan of HoopSpeak Live. Hilarious analysis of mystifying trope. An angel with a cudgel breaking bubbles of soap. Like honeybees buzzing around a hive. Everybody buzzing about HoopSpeak Live.